Sorry.
Marcel, you are now going to give us a little bit of a presentation on governance, and and you have Paul gave you 3 extra minutes, so you're welcome to use it.
Absolutely. Let me jump in. Welcome everybody. My name is Marcel Mongeon or Mongeon, whichever way you want to swing. I can swing both ways in Canada. I'm a member of the Hamilton Tonic Club. I rarely use credentials, but the one I want to sort of point out here at the end of my name there is I'm a chartered director. I was actually part of a program 20 years ago to get the Chartered Director program started out of McMaster University. And I continue to teach in a program down in the Caribbean Governance Training Institute. They always say, "Oh wow, that must be nice." Yeah, but since the pandemic, not so much. So I go on 2 nights a week as opposed to actually going anywhere. What's governance? Well, it's the action of governing, but I always talk about it in terms of two major functions. Our clubs individually decide what they want to do on their own. First, we direct the clubs, we make decisions, and then secondly, we control those clubs. We stay on track with respect to our decisions. Now, as Paul has pointed out, Rotary International gives us, bluntly, I think, almost too much help. Look, if you want someplace you should read, yes, the Rotary Manual of Procedure. Avoid the Code of Policies, that's almost 500 pages long. The trouble with our governance documents at Rotary is too many damned attorneys. And yes, I are an attorney, so I'm part of the problem usually. But we've got all sorts of different documents that say this and that and the other thing. So why do we write things down? Well, the answer is really simple. If we don't write things down, how are we going to remember what we have to do? So you're going to start as your president of your club to make decisions at the board level. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, what the correct form of that is. But you're going to make all of these decisions. Presidents, your best friend among your other officers is going to be your secretary. Why? Because as you keep making all of these decisions, you better write the decisions down. And similarly, a great secretary is going to be a PITA, a P-I-T-A, a pain in the, yeah, you got it. And why? Because they're going to constantly be following up with you so that you as the president could look really good to remind the board, we made these decisions in the past and now I'm following up. So let's understand, who's supposed to write everything down? I got bad news for you. As the president, you don't actually have time because you're chairing the board meeting to write everything down. So you're going to want to make sure that the secretary is doing it. That's a critical function for you to get right. Now, why does good governance help good service? Well, if we make decisions about a project and we write them down, and we follow up on them, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier than trying to make it up as you go along. By the way, the clip is from Life of Brian. Anybody who remembers that movie, they were making it up as they went along. And it sort of gave us a really strange situation. Key governance questions in a club. Who do we work for and who's responsible? So at the top, the most important group of people we have in our club is, of course, our members. Now, our members, in fact, delegate authority downwards, first to the directors, and the directors, in fact, choose among themselves certain officers, and we expect a reporting upwards of all of this. So, interestingly, yes, the president works for the members, but through the directors is an interesting issue. Similarly, it is actually your board of directors that makes all of the key decisions for your club. I'm sorry, Madam President or Mr. President, it's not you, it's your board of directors. That's who makes the decision. And if you don't believe me, here's the standard club constitution that Rotary International prescribes. And it says, Section 2, the board has general control over all officers. That's you, Madam President. That's you, Mr. President. And for good cause may declare any office vacant. You know, so if you come to cross purposes with your board, I got bad news for you. The board is, in fact, the person to whom a president on a day-to-day or a month-to-month basis reports to. In all club matters, says Section 3, the decision of the board is final, subject only to an appeal to the club, and it requires a 2/3 members. Please, please, if you come to the governance committee of the district with these kind of problems, oh gosh, you've gone way too far. Please give us a call much earlier than that. But wait a minute, I thought the president led the club. Isn't that the case? Well, the president and the other officers propose actions, they implement actions, but it is only the collective board of directors that can make a decision about the major decisions of a club. There are some decisions that have to go to the general membership, but I just want you to understand that absolutely the expectation is you're going to propose actions which will lead your club, but you're going to have to get your board of directors on side, because that's the first sort of line that you have to convince. Now, some interesting and important issues that we have to talk about at the board. So one of the things as president you need to do in sort of helping your other board members understand, you're there first to supervise the performance of the officers. Now, a lot of the concepts that I teach here, of course, come from corporate governance or large organizational governance. And of course, when we talk about some of our clubs being as small as 8 members or 5 members, the board is synonymous with the members. But of course, we have had clubs. I've been a member of a club that was up over 200 members at one point. Oh yeah, by the way, we've got a real problem in Rotary that membership is an issue, and this is something that everyone is concerned about. But our boards are there first to supervise and monitor the performance of the officers and provide for their succession. By the way, one of the really interesting things that I've suggested to lots of people, how could we convince that demographic of 30 to 50 years old, the people that we're trying to get join us as members, what might interest them? We give them opportunities for board training of an organization, where of course lots of them are looking to belong as boards of other organizations in your community. If you're doing it right, this is a good opportunity to in fact train younger people on how to be a good board member. What's your annual plan? What are the major decisions that arise from the annual plan? By the way, the board is responsible to monitor the performance of the club and to ensure that all of the parts of the club are achieving the plan. It isn't the president's problem when something goes wrong, it's the collective board's problem. I realize this is an interesting distinction at times that I'm making, but it's really important sometimes to engage all of the board members to realize, board member, you have a collective responsibility with all of your colleagues here. Now, the law imposes certain duties on board members. There are 3 very specific legal duties. Fiduciary duty. That's the duty to act as a trustee. You are responsible for assets which belong to somebody else, and accordingly you're expected to not profit from that, not to have any conflicts of interest, etc. You have a duty of care to act as a reasonable director, as a reasonable officer. What does that mean? Well, a really good thing that it means is to ask questions. The number one behavior that we expect of good directors and a great president is to ask questions and to follow up on that. And then ultimately, and this is a curious one, we expect the directors to follow the legal duty of obedience. That actually means that if the deliberations of the board of directors are confidential, then they are confidential. They're confidential even from the other members of the club, potentially. And that's something that a lot of boards at times have difficulty in understanding. We have also, from the Rotary International obligations, added you've got a duty to attend, you've got a duty to work within districts and zones. Don't worry, we've got that. But here's an important question that a lot of you should ask about serving as president or even as a director of your club. Welcome to our board. Can I lose my house? Do I have sufficient legal liability that I could lose my house? I got bad news for you. Sometimes our Rotary clubs are involved in things where somebody could get harmed and could get harmed badly. Think of student exchange. Think of all of the revelations we've had of the last 30, 40 years about dealing with minors, dealing with precarious populations and everything. Now, some of you are going to say, but we've got insurance for that, don't we? Yes, we've got a web page on the district's web page of insurance policies and everything. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out there are certain types of liabilities like gross negligence, willful acts, willful blindness to facts that in fact our insurance policy isn't going to cover us on. One of the functions, just to give you an idea of some of the things that we should at least be attuned to within our Rotary clubs that could cause us great grief. So, for example, we will regularly do cleanup of the Great Lakes. Oh, okay. So who's responsible in that cleanup project to go and make sure where we're sending people isn't potentially dangerous? But now I'm confused. You mean we have to worry? Yes, absolutely. You have to worry about those sort of circumstances. And the liability starts first at the collective board of directors. And of course, the board of directors is going to come to the president and say, well, why didn't you tell us about this? Why weren't you leading us in this particular respect? Now, don't worry, help is at hand. We have a governance committee within District 7090. We have lots of things that governance committee can help you with. We have policies that you should or absolutely should consider implementing in your club. For example, an anti-harassment policy. A few of the vulnerable population policies you should consider. We give talks like this. For those of you who are incorporated on the Canadian side of the river, there are some concerns about the changes to the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act. If you're incorporated under that and saying, gee, what should we consider? Give me a call, we'll talk it through. Some clubs have separate charitable foundations established, and you need some assistance with that. Our governance committee is also assisting with newsletter articles, and I want to show you, it's top secret sort of, it'll be on the website I think in a week or so, is a new document that we've approved, which is in fact a club board governance tool. And so here is, we tried to keep it as simple as possible. Look at that, 2 pages, that's all it is. And we ask you all sorts of questions. So, just go through the checklist, consider whether your club should be incorporated or unincorporated, review your membership program. I'm just picking things off at random here. All communications need to be compliant with Rotary branding policies. My purpose here is to just say that the governance committee actually spent quite a bit of time in putting this checklist together. It'll be on the website, I suspect, within a week, and we've just done a newsletter article about this, how it's there to in fact help you. So just to sort of help conclude, and in Paul's encouragement to go short, I'm going to go short, but people always have a question or two. Governance is a simple concept. It's how we keep our clubs on track, in turn how we stay relevant and how we change. But if anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy for you probably to press that little raise hand button, or if you're on camera, you can wave at me because I can see everybody here. So does anybody have any questions?
Office lights on.
No questions?
Anybody have any questions for Marcel?
Yes, please, Oksana. Good to see you. How are you?
Well, thank you. Just sort of maybe to put it in the parking lot, I would be interested in understanding the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, and wondered if there'd be benefit for some of the Canadian president-elects coming together to have that discussion.
It's a constant source of interest that we deal with. If you are already incorporated, chances are I've already had a discussion with somebody in your club. There are some changes in the offing in the Ontario Not-for-Profit Act, which require clubs to sort of pay some attention to their bylaws. But we're fortunate because a particular club, the Hamilton AM Club, sort of took the bull by the horns, created a committee that I was part of, and we put together some sample bylaws, which I'd be happy to share out as well. So first thing you can do is shoot me an email. You can find me pretty quickly. It's an uncommon name, so shoot me an email and I'd be happy to send that to you.